Welcome back. My name is Jim Kaseman, and we're talking about how to get to know God intimately. And so we have in the past weeks and months talking about different subjects in the Bible, but we have in the last few weeks talking about biblical faith. And we've talked a lot about faith, and we finally came to the place where we're talking about faithfulness and presumption, and knowing the difference between the three. Faith simply means to trust God. So if you trust him, you'll do what he tells you to do. How do you know what to do? Primarily through the Word of God. That's why you need to meditate on the Word of the Lord day and night and read the Bible and get familiar with God. That's the primary way that you get to know God intimately, is through the written Word. Now, foolishness means to act unwisely. Presumption means to take something for granted. So if you act unwisely or in presumption, that's not faith, and you won't receive answers to prayer. It's that simple. And the other thing we have to always remind ourselves of, God is the only creator. He's the only one that can create anything. Not the angels, not the devil, who's a fallen angel. They can't create anything. All the devil can do is lie and deceive you. And in so perverting the Word of God, taking it out of context, and getting you to believe what's not true, so he can pull you away from God, or if you don't know God, keep you away from God. So then we've been using illustrations to help us to understand the difference between faith, foolishness, and presumption. All right, so now we're going to talk about money. That's always a good subject. All right, so first of all, we have in our society now, and I believe it's the same all over the world pretty much, of course, with the exception, of course, if you're in some of these third world countries where you live in a jungle or something. But primarily now, credit cards seem to be the thing. You can travel anywhere in the world, which I have traveled. I had the blessing to travel in many countries throughout the world. And I always was able to use a credit card for hotels and that sort of thing. And which I very seldom did. I could have, but I didn't. I just didn't trust people getting my credit card. I usually paid cash, but that was me. I would take enough money with me to take care of those things. But credit cards and charging. Now, first of all, credit cards now are a convenience, and it's getting to the point where everything will be on digital. Without a credit card, you won't be able to do anything. And of course, this has progressed through the years. But now credit cards can be good and they can be bad. It can be convenient, but here's the thing. Do not charge anything on a credit card. Nothing, unless you have the money in the bank. So if you're going to charge $232 for some things for your house, make sure you have $232 in the bank, in your checking account, so that you can pay the bill when it comes. The tendency is, and especially with people who are not used to credit cards, and a lot of the younger people who haven't learned the hard way yet, they have the credit card as like, I've got unlimited money. And it doesn't occur to them that it has to be paid back with interest. And it is high, 20-some%. I mean, talk about being robbed. But they don't understand that. And the next thing that happens, they're totally out of control. And now they've got few thousand dollars worth of credit card charges, and you notice there might be $5,000, $20,000, $10,000 worth of charges, and they only want $20, $30 a month. Well, now if you never charge another thing, you're never going to get that paid off. If you only make the minimum payment of $30 a month, it's going to be there forever. What a trap the devil sets up for people. Now, again, there's good and there's bad. You can't rent a car without a credit card. And you can't, and there's, sometimes you can't even check into a hotel without a credit card. And so it's a convenience if you use it wisely. And every time that bill comes every month, you already got the money to pay the bill. I can't overemphasize that. And that takes discipline, which unfortunately, we're now living in a time when commitment, discipline, hardworking, that's kind of a generation of the past. The present generation says trying to get as much as they can with as least amount of effort as possible. So then again, credit card says, well, see, I'll just charge it, I'll just charge it, I'll just charge it. They have no discipline, no control. Their flesh, their sinful, selfish flesh is leading them into destruction. All right, now when it comes to the credit card, there are some things you do not charge. You do not charge or borrow money for necessities. What are necessities? Food. There's your rent. If you're renting an apartment or renting a house or what have you. And so those are things you need to pay cash for. You need to pay cash. You don't use your credit card to pay for your electric bill, your water bill, garbage bill, depending on where you live. And like I said, food, clothes. Don't charge those clothes. Those are all necessities. Don't charge it or borrow money for it. Why? Because once you eat it, it's gone. Once you wear out that clothes, it's gone. Once the month you borrow for your rent for the apartment for this month, and then all of a sudden here's another month. Now what are you going to do? You got 2 months to pay. Well, I'll charge it again. Now you got 2 months that you owe the credit card. See, it gets out of control. So don't borrow or charge for necessities, because once you eat it or drink it, it's gone. Don't charge the gas for your car. Once you burn up that tank, it's gone. And now you have to pay for something that's gone, and that's a necessity. Don't charge it. If you don't have the money, you don't charge it. Now that takes some faith. That takes patience. That takes perseverance, but above all, it takes discipline. Your flesh wants to charge it. And you have to say, flesh, we're going to wait till we get our paycheck, till we get the money for it. We're not charging if we don't have the money for it. You're going to have to take control of your flesh. Your flesh will take you into debt and hell, believe it or not. We'll probably get into that subject again. If you don't control your flesh, if you allow your flesh to have its way, it will take you to hell. But we're required in the scriptures to discipline our flesh and bring it under subjection. Don't let your flesh tell you what to do. You tell your flesh what to do. But you have to become strong spiritually to do that. Now, it doesn't take faith to charge anything. It doesn't take faith to borrow any money. That doesn't take faith. That's not faith. If you've asked for something, well, it's been a month and I haven't seen it yet, I guess I'll have to charge it or borrow it. That's not faith. That's foolishness. Wait until God brings it to you. It's not comfortable for your flesh, but it's the best way. It's God's way. And that way. The scriptures and Proverbs tell us, when you borrow money, you become a slave to the lender. You charge it and you can't pay it back. You made that loan from the bank. You now are a slave to the bank. You're a slave to that credit card company. You're going to pay that. You're going to end up paying all the interest that they want, which is well over 20% now. That's crazy. And you'll always be in debt for the rest of your life if you do it their way. And that's what they want. They want you to charge everything so they can take advantage of you for the rest of your life and suck all that money away from you in interest that you could use for other things. Well, I've learned a lot of these things the hard way. That's why I get a little upset. I had to do a lot of repenting in my earlier years because I didn't understand. I wasn't trained and disciplined at home and all that sort of stuff. And so I did learn a lot of things the hard way. All right. Harabatinglasi. Well, I did borrow some things. I remember the first airplane. Well, the first airplane. Well, that wasn't the first airplane. But there was one airplane where I got into a hurry. I couldn't wait for God. I borrowed the money. And next thing you know, I don't have the money to make the payments on that. And I had to sell that airplane. It was a hard lesson. And get out of it before I destroyed everything else in my family just because it was of an airplane. So when I borrowed the money, it turned out to be a real hardship. It wasn't a joy. And I thank you for all the airplanes that we received that were given to us, or we had the cash in the bank to pay for it. But I got out of God's will here. I got ahead of God, and I paid for it. I paid the penalty for it. It was a hardship. All right. Enough said there. And our time is up. God bless you. We'll see you in the next session.